This is W. Welcome back to Surprise Cast, where we are sitting down, ready to chit-chat and see what unfolds with a band all the way across from the pond. Who is this band? Well, they have created an album that seems effortless, effervescent, experienced, and very charming. Let us welcome Railcard from the UK. Please introduce yourself and what you do in the band. Let us begin with Ian.
Hello, my name's Ian Bottom. I play the drums in Railcard and sing some of the singing and also write some of the songs with Rachel. Yeah, that's what I do.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Rachel.
Hello, I'm Rachel Love and I play guitar in Railcard and I sing and I write songs mostly with Ian.
Lovely to meet you, Rachel.
You too.
And Allison.
Hi, W. I am Allison Thompson and I play trumpet and keyboards and do some backing vocals and add some mischief to Railcard.
Very nice to see you again. Much appreciated. Let us begin with a big question. And I'm going to lob this ball over to Ian. Ian, here is your question. Could you please tell us a big story, an extraordinary story that you've experienced in your life that relates to the arts in some way?
Okay. If I'll tell the music one. I've definitely kind of mentioned this before, and probably Rachel and Allison might be sick of hearing it, but I was almost in the Sisters of Mercy, the band. The story of it is, it's a kind of a running joke, but I keep telling it as the years go by. But the story is, I was at university in Leeds. This is 1980, and I was in a couple of bands when I was there, and I was playing drums. And I sort of knew the other Leeds bands, and I knew the Sisters of Mercy. And I think I went to see them play at what was their first gig. And obviously they had the drum machine, and it was really good. And then getting to the end of that year at uni, I had a phone call from Craig from the Sisters of Mercy. Who said, we think we might get a drummer. And he said, we've seen you play. And he said, do you want to come round and meet Andrew and me and talk about maybe, being the drummer next year? They said, we're going to go on tour with Psychedelic Furs. And I went, they were one of my favourite bands then. Anyway, so I went round and we had this chat. They gave me this tape, which I've still got, which is their first sort of demo tape they did. And they said, right, well, when you come back to uni in the autumn, we'll talk more about it. And what happened in the end was that I didn't go back because I failed and dropped out, and I didn't go back. And then they didn't get a drummer. They just carried on. It didn't happen. And then the postscript to that is that 20 years later, when I was playing in Death in Vegas, I had another phone call from the guy who was looking after the Sisters of Mercy on behalf of Andrew. And he said, Andrew wants to talk to you again about maybe being an extra guitarist in the Sisters of Mercy. And Andrew Eldritch came to see Death in Vegas play in Leeds, and he was brilliant. And he came in, he was wearing a Hawaiian shirt and shades, and he was totally, funny and friendly and everything like that. And anyway, he didn't really like it, and nothing came of that either. So there's this running joke now that every 20 years, I'm going to get a phone call from the Sisters of Mercy to go and sort of do something in the band. And it's getting to about that time now. And it hasn't, I'm waiting, the phone's right here. But no, the thing is, what would my musical life have been like if I joined it, if I had done it then?
That's my next question.
I don't know if I'd be here now at all.
Just go with this for a second. What do you think it would have been like?
I reckon it would have been pretty similar, really. I think I'd have been the same person. I guess, yeah. They're still going, aren't they? So Yeah, I don't know.
God, that is an incredible story.
Be open-minded. I hope that fulfills the criteria of what you're after.
Absolutely. And I imagine people listening to this conversation are probably chomping at the bit to ask you more questions so they can message you and ask you. Oh, man, that's a great story. And by the way, hats off to Death in Vegas.
Thanks.
My brother got me into them. And that lovely movie called Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't have a story to top that, so I'm going to pass it over to Rachel. What's your big story?
Well, it's very different, actually. I wanted to talk about my aunt, who was a child prodigy. She was a pianist. And so my grandparents had come over from Russian immigrants, and my grandfather was a violinist and a pianist, and he taught her from a very young age. And she was performing from about the age of 9. And then she went to the Royal Academy, and then there were 3. My dad was the youngest of 4 children, and all 4 of them went to the Royal Academy of Music in London, and was this amazing woman. She put on lunchtime concerts during the war because obviously there was nothing going on in the evening. Yeah, they were very popular, and she played on BBC Radio. She made records. She toured the States. And then she was recommended to teach the royal children. So she taught Prince Charles and Princess Anne the piano. And then she was my piano teacher. And I didn't really appreciate it. I had no idea who was teaching me the piano. So, and then her younger sister taught me the cello. So I had no idea how privileged.
No, why would you, right? But what an endearing story. What's her name?
Hilda. So she's Hilda Bohr. Yeah.
But you know what, Rachel? People that are tuning into this podcast probably have maybe not that unique of a story, but a story that they can relate to in terms of a relative inspiring them to play music.
Yeah. Yeah, she had a 70th birthday party. It was a big deal. And we were invited to play with the Undertones that day. So I had to go and say to her, I'm really sorry, I can't come to your party. And she was brilliant about it. She's saying, that's what musicians have to do. You have to go and, that's your priority. She was very good about it.
Now, I wonder what she would have said if you said, sorry, I've got to go play with the Sisters of Mercy. No poking at Ian. That's a great story. Okay, we're going to pass the baton over to Allison. Do you have a story about a lamp, or you want to tell something else here?
Well, I'm going to tell you, first of all, if you don't mind, something about where the lamp is. So where the lamp is, and I'll come back to the lamp, I live in this wonderful flat in Ramsgate, and I've lived in this flat for 2 years, and I've got a sea view out the window. I've got a really beautiful view of Spencer Square. The history of this flat, it was built in between 1826 and 1830, so it's Regency period, and it is absolutely gorgeous. But the art story about this is that I think probably the most famous artist in the world ever has been in this building and has done a sketch from this very window, has written lots of letters about his time in this building. So I can show you the sketch. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but this is from my window. Okay, and that sketch is by Van Gogh.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. You can look up the address, 6 Royal Road, Ramsgate. And Van Gogh was here in, I think it was 1880 something. And this was a school for boys, 26 boys. And Van Gogh was one of the teachers. He taught maths and French. And he lived just across the road there in Spencer Square. So I got a blue plaque on the front of the flat, and there's a blue plaque over there, and there's a bust of Van Gogh in the square. So yeah, and there's like lots of letters that he wrote to his brother, just describing the building. So I can, walk around and read the letters and just imagine him being here.
Hey, that is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible.
And you had, how did you even find this place?
Well, I moved to Ramsgate and started working for the NHS, and somebody I worked with was living here, and then she was moving out, and she said, I'm moving out of my flat. Do you want to move in? And I said, oh yeah, that'd be great. And then she told me where it was and invited me round. And I was like, are you kidding? I'd like to live here. So the other amazing part of the story then, is that, the famous lamp from I've Seen Everything album by the Trash Can Sinatras is now here, that was painted beautifully by John Douglas. Yes, so Trash Can Sinatra's lamp, painted by John Douglas, is now in Van Gogh's sitting room in Ramsgate. I thought that would be quite a big story.
When I come to Ramsgate, I'm going to have to look you up, okay?
Yeah, so look up 6 Royal Road,
nice party there.
Ramsgate, and you see. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, you three, for launching our podcast conversation with some great stories. Love it. Okay, Ian, I've got a question for you. This comes from a book called What Art Does, an Unfinished Theory by Betty A. and Brian Eno. Allow me to read. Here we go. Why do we engage in these activities we call art? People say things like, art helps me see the world. Art helps me understand the world. Art helps me imagine new worlds, escape, connect, relax, forget, remember, etc. But what do they mean? How does it actually work? Got 2 questions for you. What does art do for you? Any kind of art. And tell the listeners and me, why do you feel like you need art in your life?
Okay, so the art in the sense of the music that I've made or that I do, that's about sort of fulfillment of me, I think. It's quite selfish sort of thing, I suppose. You're doing something for your own reasons kind of thing, and you're doing something to see whether you can do it and see whether it comes out good. So that sounds quite flippant, I suppose, to say it. But then art that I sort of appreciate, and funny enough, I was thinking about this might have been the first part of the talk would have been me talking about something like this, but I really like conceptual art, and I like the kind of joke, prank ideas of conceptual art. And so I looked some things up yesterday of like the most controversial pieces of art, that have really wound people up. And there was one that I found that I didn't really know about, and I wrote it down. He was a Danish artist called Jens Harling. There was a scandal in 2021 where he done works of art that featured banknotes, money, where he's making a statement about wealth or poverty or something like that. And he was commissioned by the Danish Art Museum to make or remake a couple of these works of art that were supposed to represent the annual income of somebody in Denmark and in Austria. And the museum gave him that amount of money in cash to use to make the artwork. So if it was going to be a framed banknotes or something. But what he did was he just kept the money and gave them 2 empty frames back. And he said, this is the work of art. It's called Take the Money and Run. And he said, it's now, he said the idea wasn't a work of art until I kept the money, and now that's the art, is me keeping the money. This is what I mean about it being sort of funny and making it, art that makes you laugh. Anyway, so the museum sued him and made him give back the money, but he took a fee and then the museum kept the empty frames and put them up in the museum as a fantastic work of art. And so in the end, everyone was sort of happy, you know. But that's so in a certain sense of why did he do that? Or why do I like that? You know, I like it because it's amusing. I don't need to go and see it. I don't need to go and look at the empty picture frames. All I need to know is that he did it. And then, you know, like other things like, you know, I don't know, you know, the art that is, you know, bodily fluids or something like that, you know, I just need to know about it. I kind of don't always need to see it as.
So take us back a little bit, Ian. When do you feel like art captured your attention, your imagination?
Music captured it very early, I think, because I was in a household of musical. You know, my dad was a drummer and my sister, I've got an older sister who introduced me to lots of music. But art, as in visual art, I don't know really. I don't know if I've ever been that passionate about it. I mean, I kind of like galleries. I like looking at things. I like making art. I like doing designing of sleeves and things like that, which I enjoy that kind of thing. But that's the fulfillment thing again. It makes me feel good that I could do it, you know.
Does it exercise any kind of emotions for you that are, you know, helps you channel negative emotions or express negative emotions in a positive way at all?
Maybe sometimes the song writing does, maybe, but I don't know if Railcard songs do that. I don't know if they're like that really. We're not negative, are we, Railcard?
Were you a Beatles fan whilst growing up?
Yeah. Well, my sister was before me, and so I would have heard her Beatles records with the Beatles. That was the first Beatles record I would have heard. Yeah, so I did love the Beatles. Where
were some other bands that inspired you along the way?
Another early one was T-Rex or Tyrannosaurus Rex and T-Rex. And David Bowie, and you know, so I'm at that age where I was about 10 years old when those two people became huge stars, you know, and I loved it. You know.
Did you grow up in Leeds?
No, I grew up in southeast London, in suburbia, but I just studied at Leeds for a little while, and then now I'm in Folkestone, which is another coastal town. It's kind of round the coast from Ramsgate, where Allison is. I guess it's about 40 miles away or something, Allison, is that right?
Were you there while studying when the wedding present started to take off?
I think I was a bit before them. So I was there in 80. So it was Soft Shell, you know, I forget, apart from this, there was a band called, I think the Mekons would have been there then.
Still
too.
Going. Still going.
Yeah, I can't.
So let's continue this flowing energy of art. And Rachel, I'm going to move it over to you now. Ian told us what art does for him, what it kind of impacts him. Tell us a little bit, what does it do for your soul? How does it nourish you?
Well, I'm the same as Ian. I have to create something. Otherwise, I just don't feel fulfilled. So yeah, if I'm writing songs, generally, I do write about grievances. I think most of my songs, personal songs, are about grievances. We have got one in Railcard about an unstable neighbour. But yeah, but I also think I've had lots of people that relate to what I've done. So I don't think it's totally selfish, although the need to create is probably selfish, but it's just really lovely when people connect. It is my way of expressing myself. I'm not particularly good at expressing myself other ways. But I did want to go to art college. I didn't want to do music because all my family were musicians. So I decided that's not what I was going to do. So I kind of really I really like pop art, and I wanted to follow my brother's footsteps and go to art college. But then I joined a band, and that was that.
But tell us some of the music you enjoyed whilst growing up.
So, so I was brought up on classical music, which, we did love. We used to prance around the room to Tchaikovsky, etc. But that I had two older brothers, and they got into pop music, and we kept it a secret from my parents. We'd go and listen to The Sweet, but we liked David Bowie, and we went down one day to confess to my parents. We said, "We've got something we need to tell you," and they were really worried. We like pop music. And then punk came along, and my brother was in one of the early punk bands in Cambridge, and I got really inspired by that.
Yeah, so let's take that one step further, if you don't mind. I want you to really concentrate on what does the music do for you? How does it ignite the soul, the passion?
Well, I got very excited by the Ramones. That was the first kind of band that it was just, it was really very exciting. Pop music.
Yeah, great chord.
Yeah, and now listening to classical music, it's very, because it's what I grew up on. I really do connect to a lot of classical music.
Yeah, Allison, what are your sentiments regarding art, and what does it do for you?
Art or music. I feel a lot of emotion when I look at visual art. Lots and lots of different kind of emotion. Depends really what I'm looking at. And I'm the same as Ian. I like kind of like quirkiness, funniness. I like things that can be a bit shocking. I like being able to look at something and not read about it, but make my own interpretation. There's not a kind of particular medium that I don't like, and I try to go to exhibitions as much as I can. And I think when Rachel was talking, I don't really know why, but I kind of like started thinking about music as well, and how, I don't know if everyone has, but I've always got a song in my head. At any time you can ask me, what song have you got in your head? It's like I've always got a soundtrack going on, and I suppose I've got a kind of limited library of songs, but like words and images trigger music in my head, trigger songs in my head all the time. Music, I feel as if it's just with me 24 hours a day. Awake. I think apparently I sing in my sleep. I hum in my sleep. I wake up singing. If I'm lucky, like a couple of days ago, I woke up kind of singing a song that I've written down the lyrics for and worked out a part for. But I don't know why I'm rambling on. It was something that Rachel said that made me just think about just feeling that immersed in music, and just lots of visual things triggering off. Lots of, creative processes, I suppose.
So I know Trash Can Sinatras were an important band for you in terms of really appreciating indie alternative music. Tell us some other bands when you were younger that you really glommed onto.
Well, I guess the first band that I really, really loved, I went absolutely crazy when I heard The Jam, and I could not believe how amazing The Jam sounded. And I still listen to Jam albums now, and I'm absolutely fascinated by listening to how all the parts, the drums and the bass and the guitars, and how it all comes together in a really amazing way. You can, start right from the introduction of a song, and it just takes you on a whole journey. Yeah, absolutely. So the Jam, absolutely loved The Jam. Blondie, I couldn't believe a woman could be so amazingly cool and sexy and beautiful, and I loved those songs. And Dolly Mixture, absolutely loved Dolly Mixture. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they were a band that were around at the time as well, that Rachel was in. Rachel was in Dolly Mixture and I loved them. I absolutely loved Dolly Mixture. But apart from that, I grew up with my grandparents brought me up. My grandparents brought me up so I kind of grew up in a diet of Shirley Bassey, Elvis, Dusty Springfield, someone called Sydney Devine, who was like from our hometown. Yeah. And when I was 15, I guess, I started my own band, and they were kind of inspired by Dolly Mixture and by Tallulah Gosh, and they were called the Sherbet Fountains.
What was it?
Because I kind of was trying to take that kind of like sweetie, kind of the Sherbet Fountains. It's a kind of sweet, because I like Dolly Mixture and I thought Sherbet Fountains was quite cool. And while the Sherbet Fountains were very like Tallulah Gosh and Dolly Mixture, and everyone in the town was in a band, absolutely everyone. We all had cassettes. We would all give each other a cassette when we were out. And one of the bands that were around at the time were the Trash Can Sinatras. But the Trash Can Sinatras were not like any other band. They were not. We were all playing our 4 chords and singing our little songs, and we went along to see this band. They were so accomplished, really, and they're a bit older than me. John was born in 1963, so yeah, but that was kind of quite a big age difference when I was 15. But yeah, I could not believe when I heard some of those songs. And when you saw them playing live and, the singer was actually singing. He's got the most beautiful voice, Frank Reader. He really has. Absolutely. It's like, that kind of like, it's like Chet Baker or like a crooner, but also like a bit like Morrissey, a bit like Roddy Frame. Yeah, amazing. So yeah, that was my influences when I was that age.
He also has a sister that can sing just as good.
She's pretty good, isn't she? Yeah, she's yeah, amazing. Yeah, and we used to go that way. She was on. I remember when she was on Top of the Pops, because do you know that she was? She did backing vocals for the Eurythmics. And if you watch the video of Sweet Dreams, you'll see her. Yes.
I didn't know
Sweet
that.
Sweet Dreams, you'll see her. Yeah, Eddie Reader, and she was a backing vocalist for Eurythmics. Look at the Sweet Dreams video, you'll see her.
Okay, I learn something new every day. This is good stuff. This is why I love these conversations. And this is why it's called Surprise Cast.
Yeah.
Just had to put it out there. Okay.
Yeah.
Ian, tell us about Railcard. How did you all meet? Why did you consider forming? How did this all come together and gel?
Okay, so there's a very specific sort of moment of this happening. So I'd met Rachel a couple of times. I think that's right. If I can thumb up Rachel, if I'm right, but I'd met you a couple of times before this happened. I saw that, the quick thumb. But what happened was last year, about this time last year or February last year, there was a gig in London which was to celebrate the launch of an indie pop compilation album that's called Sensitive. And it had lots of kind of C86 type bands on it. And it was put together by Pete Perfides, who's a great writer, journalist over here. But there was an idea formed that we would do a launch show and have a kind of house band and try and get some of the singers of these songs to come and perform them. So I was the drummer in that band. And so quite a few of the singers, from the C86 bands that were on the compilation came along. And amongst those artists was Rachel and Debsy from Dolly Mixture, who performed a Dolly Mixture song. And it was a brilliant night. But I think it was even before the gig had started, Rachel and me and Peter and Paul Kelly were standing around the table, and I don't quite know how we started the conversation, but we all realised that we were all born the same year, and not only that, within like a few weeks or a couple of months of each other. So we're all the same age. And somebody just sort of quipped, said, oh, well, we should form a band then, shouldn't we? And we laughed. But then probably Rachel and me were the only two people that went, oh, we actually should, you know. And then we kind of went away that night. And then I guess both of us independently were thinking about it. And then we kind of said, let's do it. And I think I wrote some words for a song. That might have been the first thing that happened. And then the next time I saw Rachel, I said, well, I think I might have some words for a song for this band. And that was how it started. So maybe Rachel might want to come in and continue the story. Would you like to?
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. So, I went to see some friends in a band, and I did notice that Paper Nut Cambridge were playing too. So I thought, Ian will be there. And when we were just chatting, I don't know if you even spoke about the band, but you just passed me this sheet of lyrics, which was brilliant. And I went straight home and I wrote a song. And I think I probably sent it to you the next day or a couple of days.
Yeah, you did.
And so you sent me some more lyrics. Then we just kind of we were on this roller coaster. Yeah, writing tons of songs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the creation of this band, and this idea that mushroomed a bit, and writing music and lyrics and all that, did you have any concerns, or is just like, let's just see where this goes and let's just flex our muscle a little bit? And
we didn't have a plan. We just were writing lots of songs. We actually wrote quite a few, and then low power. We got in touch with the other two and said, do you still want to be in this band? Because we're writing songs. So, after a little while, we had a band meeting to see what everyone thought. Yeah, I think Paul was in at the beginning, but then he did worry about he couldn't commit any time to, because we've written so many songs. He didn't think it would go that fast. So he pulled out.
so who actually came up with the band's name Railcard, and what does that mean for you or to you?
Paul actually came up with a name.
Yeah.
Me and Ian had a different name. We liked the name Triffic. But actually, when we thought about all the merch ideas that could go with Railcard, that was really inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a great name for a band. Love it.
I think that it goes back to the idea of it being, it's kind of funny and serious, and it explains it. You know, we all qualify for a particular kind of Railcard, apart from Allison.
Allison, do you want to talk about when you joined and a little bit more of what you do there?
I don't even know how it happened. It's just, where's Rachel gone? So I can't even remember how it happened. It's just like I met Ian once at a gig in Ramsgate, and we were just chatting about music. And then I went to see Rachel playing in London, and then they got in touch with me asking did I want to come and play some trumpet. So I did some recording. Then I don't know, I jumped on board somehow. Like a stowaway, I just jumped on board and decided I was going to be in this band. I think they invited me.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think it because it started off with, we just asked Allison if she'd like to just play on a couple of the songs. I think there may be 3 or 4 songs. And then as soon as that had happened and it came out so good, I think that we then just thought, well, look, let's just make it the part of the sound, not just a kind of a guest sound on a couple of songs. Let's try and get it on as many as we can.
Let's go deeper into this album.
So I was just going to say, it got on really, really well.
Yeah,
we just really clicked. And I think the whole idea of the band, the whole sound of the band, just the energy, and just it's like as soon as it was an idea, the idea, became reality, and every idea we've had just becomes reality. It's like magic.
Let's go deeper into the album, because I think its running time is quicker than lightning. It's about 30 minutes or so. But I love the diversity of the sound. And underneath all this diversity, it still has that really smart pop sensibilities. But there's a particular track I would love to get more of a backstory. This is track number 4, Revolutionary Calendar. This is one of my favorites. Let's take a listen to it.
100 seconds in a minute, 100 minutes in an hour, 10 hours a day, 10 days a week, and a month for every season, 12 seasons in a year, and every day is named after a herb or tree or flower.
Okay, now that we've listened to this song, who wants to give us a little bit of its history? I do love it.
Shall I start? I'll start.
Yeah.
So the way that we wrote some of the songs together for it generally was that Rachel would come to visit Folkestone, where I live. And I don't know if this was the first time that he came or the second time he came, but one of the things that we would do was just kind of go out and wander around, and I'd be kind of showing Rachel these various things. There's lots of works of art in Folkestone, and there's one particular thing which is a clock that's on the top of the looking out towards the sea. There's a lovely kind of coastal path, and there's a clock there which on one side is a normal clock face, and on the other side it's only got 10 numbers, and it's a piece of art that was made to commemorate the calendar that they call the Republican calendar, or the French Revolutionary calendar, that they introduced. I think they did actually introduce it and live on it for a few years after the French Revolution. And the idea of this calendar was that it was all about trying to remove all vestiges of anything regal or religious from the names of the months and the names of the days and things like that. And they tried to make time decimal. So you had 100, like as the lyrics go, 100 seconds in a minute, 100 minutes in an hour, 10 hours in a day, and 10 days in a week. There were still 30 days in a month for the year, obviously, because the year doesn't change. You know, the way that the Earth goes around the sun doesn't change. So they still had to make it work within that. But they worked it out, and you had some extra days added on at the end of the year. But it was just fascinating to think that's almost like a work of art to imagine that concept. So, well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to change the names of all the seasons. We're going to change the names of the days, and we're going to do that. We're going to do it, and they did. So we decided to try and have that as the song. So that's Rachel's music, basically. That's Rachel's chords and melody, because you think Rachel had a melody already.
I think it just came with the words. We just went back and we played around with the words, and the music came together, and it kind of turned into this kind of Stereolab influenced music. But it all came together.
It doesn't have to sort of say very much. It doesn't really say anything, you know. It just says the thing about the numbers, and then in the second verse it says a little bit about
walk, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think because we were looking at France. You can see France from Folkestone, so we're kind of looking over at France, and then you kind of put that in the lyrics.
Yeah, just imagining you could reach across and touch, which is, I guess, it's a feeling sort of that you can see Europe and the rest of the world out there across the channel. You know, it's quite a nice feeling.
Yeah. Oh, good stories. And, one of the things I love about this album, all of you, is the beautiful vocals that are going on here. And I really would love to play this last track. Think about that, I think it's called. Yeah.
You can't take the country from him. You can lead the horse to the water, but you can't force it to drink. Think about that. Think about the world. Sun do, sun don't. Think about that. Think about the world. Sun will. If the rain should refuse to fall, then the flowers they just wouldn't grow. If the sun and moon and stars didn't shine.
Okay, so now that we've listened to some of this beautiful gem, who wants to share a bit of backstory to this one?
Okay, yeah, I'll start again. So it's a cover version of a song by Dandy Livingstone, who is a great sort of pop reggae artist from the 70s. And I kind of collect 7-inch singles to play it out. In Folkestone, we have quite a lot of sort of afternoon record playing things going on. And Allison does one in Ramsgate too, which I've not been to, I must go to. And people just turn up with a few singles and play them. And sometimes I take some reggae ones. So I got this Dandy Livingstone single with the song on it, which I've always liked. And I forget what gave the idea to do it, but it's just the idea, you know, it's a pop song basically, and a kind of a conscious pop song, I suppose. And yeah, we just thought, well, what about, why don't we have a go at that? And yeah, we did.
We have this really great way of working that I'll kind of put the basis down to something, maybe do a vocal, and then send it over to Ian, and then you add some more, and then it just goes backwards and forwards, isn't it? Until we can all get together.
And the last thing that goes on them is the drums and the bass with Pete. So most of those songs were sort of constructed like that. So they were kind of all done, bar the drums, and then I really like doing the drums last, because you kind of know exactly what you got to do. Then you're not trying to put the drums on first, where you don't really know how the song's going to go, or what's needed.
Allison, tell us a song that you really love on this album.
But personally, I do really love Cherry Plum. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous, and that's got a bit of history as well, doesn't it? I wasn't involved in the songwriting at all. I've just kind of like joined, and I wasn't involved in much of the recording either on this first EP. But there's an album coming out in September that I did a few tracks on.
Ooh, will we get to hear any of these? This EP that arrives later, we'll get to hear a single, maybe over the summer?
Yes, we will. The plans are being laid for how to sort of lead up to this next album. So the album will be September, and I think we're going to have tracks from it will be in like June.
In terms of this album right now, the self-titled album, whomever wants to answer, what were the challenges that came about?
I don't think there were any challenges. It's crazy, but it all happened so kind of naturally, didn't it? I can't think of one challenge. Can you, Ian?
I mean, maybe the only thing could be that we had to choose which songs were going to be on this first one and which ones we were going to save for the second one. Because we kind of had them all. We had quite a lot of songs all kind of done at the same time. So, I mean, the thing about this first CD, it's really 3 singles, it's 3 EPs, which is kind of why it's short, really. So it wasn't really, when we sort of put the tracks together to go on the CD in order, it kind of fell together like an album, I guess. But it wasn't really conceived like that. It was conceived as 3 sets of 3, or 1 set of 4 and 2 sets of 3 songs.
So so putting this all together, then, how important was sequencing?
On this one, it's just chronological, because the first 3 songs came out in October and the second 3 in September. I think finishing with the cover version, I think is quite good. It's not because it's a less important song because we didn't write it, but just because it's like an, oh, by the way, yeah, we like this guy as well. It's that sort of idea.
So Allison, Rachel, and Ian, I've spoken to many musicians where they have said to me, it's all about finding the melody, the melody, the melody. Is that true for this band?
Yeah, it's all about the melody.
And in terms of writing lyrics, is that something that is done in a way that is with great enthusiasm and enjoyment? Or is that something that just comes with like, oh, I got to get this down?
It's you. You've written most of the lyrics.
I suppose a lot of them are me, aren't they? But no, I mean, I enjoy doing it. I don't. They sometimes come as a surprise, when I suddenly realise, oh, I've got an idea for something. I've never had the thing that you described of the feeling of the pressure of, oh, I've got to finish this or I've got to complete this. It's either I've got an idea for something or my mind's blank. We haven't really been up against having to write something, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. And in terms of this album's production, which sounds great, by the way, it sounds really polished without it being overly slick, if you know what I'm saying. As a band, I'm sure this is a democratic process in putting all the pieces together. But are you perfectionists when it comes to putting all these songs in creation?
I'm going to say no. Maybe Rachel and Allison might not agree, but I'm going to say not really. I think that slight discrepancies are okay. If you're talking about rough, I mean, not that we've got particularly rough edges, but perfection is not always what you aim for. But there's something that actually was talking the other day, because somebody we should mention is Alan Crockford, who mixed everything. So he's a friend of ours. He's a bandmate of mine in another project, and we decided that we wanted to give the tracks to somebody else to mix rather than us do it ourselves. And it's this feeling of you're sort of abdicating something in a good way. You're handing something over to someone else to say, look, okay, you mix this, you decide how loud the harmonies are going to be, you put as much reverb on as you think it's going to have. And it was a really nice feeling to give that to somebody to do it, and then to get the results back from him and be smiley faced, pleased every time, everything that came back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think that is, when you talk about the production and the sound of it, a lot of that is what Alan has done to the recordings.
Have you been able to perform any of these songs live recently?
Yeah, we've done 3 gigs and enjoyed them all. They've all it's gone down pretty well. And the addition of Allison has just made it another level.
Allison's raising her hand. Go for it, Allison.
The gigs have been absolutely gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous. We've completely recreated the sound of the recordings. Yeah, it just all seems to work really, really well. Yeah,
so in terms of a live performance, what can people expect in watching you? Is this something that you put a lot of heart and emphasis on?
I think we really enjoy it. I think we've had a lot of fun, a little bit of tequila.
Are any of these songs done in a different way? Are they extended in a way like Slow Train or Cherry Plum or anything like that? Or is it pretty standard?
Yeah, so something like Cherry Plum. So we've added, obviously, Allison's vocal and a bit of trumpet as well. So it does sound a bit more upbeat, probably. We haven't done Slow Train yet. That would be a nice one to do. I don't know. I think it obviously sounds different from recording, but the energy's there, I think.
Yeah, I think
Go ahead, Ian.
There's I guess there's a little less going on when we play it live in terms of instrumentation and layers of sound. It's kind of a little bit more stripped back, I guess. But I think that's fine. I think the songs still come across. I mean, we haven't tried Revolutionary Calendar yet. That's on our list. I would love to do that. I think that would be really good. But we're investing in another keyboard module so that we can get some different sound. We can get more of the sounds that are on the recording and have them live.
So you mentioned earlier that you have an EP coming out later. So what can your fans expect for the kind of maybe the summer, anything down the line, more gigs?
Yeah, so we've got plans to do more gigs around September. So it's an album, 12 songs that's coming, and we're going to be doing some gigs in September, just in the UK. And it's kind of more of the same. I mean, as I say, all these songs were kind of created at the same time. So they're kind of, it's a continuation of what you've heard already.
Yeah.
And I think the most recent song on it is maybe a couple of months old. I think that's right. We've had a couple of days round at mine with Allison and Rachel do some overdubs, the final overdubs on those songs, and getting them ready to send to Alan to mix. But yeah, that's what we do. We've got some videos on the go that we're going to be, doing. So a few of the songs have got kind of lyric videos that are quite abstract and static, but there's a couple of videos which we'll actually be in, which is going to be quite fun to make.
When can we expect to see those videos?
I guess depending which songs get chosen to be the singles, it will be June, July, where they will start to come.
How can people find your music?
They can find it on, obviously it's streaming everywhere, so they can just find Railcard on the streaming outlets, and we're on Bandcamp, and obviously the two labels that have very kindly and brilliantly helped us put this out and have released it is Skepwax in the UK and Slumberland in America, and it's been so brilliant that they've jumped on and have put it out for us, which is great.
Let's talk about Rob Percy and Mike Schulman for a second. Yeah.
So, I mean, I've only met Mike once or twice. So I met him, I think, when he was over in the UK for maybe a Chick Factor gig a couple of years ago, maybe. But then I met him when Heavenly, who I play for, went to America in 2024. I met him then. So I don't know Mike as well as I know Rob, but I know Rob. I've known him for maybe about 10 years now, and I've been involved in quite a few of the projects that he's done with me. So yeah.
I love talking to both of them because their passion and energy and their library of knowledge for music is incredible. And the way that they champion artists, musicians, I just love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Rachel, did you want to share anything about experience?
Well, Mike's been really great to me because he's just released, or just about to release my 2 solo albums. And like Ian, I've only met him a couple of times in person, but he's just really great.
And they both work tremendously hard at their job.
Yeah.
And how they do it, I have no idea. Anything else either of you want to share about what we just discussed regarding this album? Right.
I just want to say that they just to go back to Revolutionary Calendar, that the chorus, we wrote it 10/8, so that it's decimalized. Just a little.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ian, did you want to say?
That was part of our campaign to decimalize music. So we're not having 8 notes in an octave now. We're going to have 10 notes in an octave.
And notes. I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation. No, it's really a wonderful collection of songs. And I guess I only have one problem with the album. Are you ready for this? I want more. It's like you blink and it's done. But it really is, like I said earlier, it's a really lovely batch of tunes that you put together. I'm really looking forward to the EP and whatever's coming down the line. And if you ever get over to the States, particularly San Francisco, I'm sure Mike and I will be there rooting you on. Let's do some recommendations. You want to recommend a movie, a podcast, TV series, a book that you've been reading?
I'm just going to recommend 2 things, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm a terrible reader, so I can't recommend a book. Although I've started Debsy's book, about Dolly Mixer, obviously, which Rachel appears in a lot. but I haven't got very far with it. It's not because it's brilliant what I've read so far. So I can't recommend a book. I'm going to recommend a T-Rex album, as we talked about them, and that album, the one that I think that everyone should listen to, is called A Beard of Stars, which was made in 1970. It's a brilliant period in their history where it's changing from being the kind of acoustic, folky bongos, and it goes electric, but there's still no drums. But it's like this kind of heavy guitar kind of comes in. It's almost like Hendrix wig out guitar on the songs, and it's one of my favourite ones by them. So I would definitely say get that. And I forget what the other thing was I was going to recommend now. That might be.
Was it a movie?
It wasn't a movie. Oh, it was a podcast. It was a podcast, and I'm sure lots of people know this already, but it's the one that's called The History of Music in 500 Songs. And I've only heard 2 of these. And I heard them on a car journey with my bandmate Bob in Swansea Sound, which is another band that we're in. And when we have a couple of long car journeys, and he said, "Do you fancy listening to one of these podcasts?" So I've listened to 2. One of them was about Lee Perry and the return of Django. So it's a brilliant reggae related one. And the other one was about See Emily Play by Pink Floyd. And both of them were fantastic. And so I need to listen to the other 498. Although he obviously hasn't. He hasn't made all of them yet. I think he's only up to about 1969 in the chronology. But that's a podcast. But I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted. To lots of people would have heard those, much more of those than I have. That's it.
Great recommendations, Rachel.
Well, my mind goes blank when I'm trying to think of things, but I have been watching some things. BBC iPlayer. I don't know if you can get BBC iPlayer.
No, I can't.
No.
It never allows me. So someone
really?
knows
so you can't get it in the States? No.
I can't. No.
Okay. Well, if somebody can, there's a couple of things. There's something called Detectorists, which is about people that go out metal detecting. And it's very British. It's very gentle. And there's a couple of characters in there called Simon and Garfunkel. And so you get a little bit of really nice guitar playing through it. It's very subtle jokes. And the person who wrote that has just written something else called Small Profits, which is brilliant. But if you can't get iPlayer, I'm going to have to try and think of something else.
Like I said, if anybody's listening to this podcast, can message me privately or email me and just say, "Hey, William, this is all you need to do." Yeah. Let me know, because there's got to be some way around this thing. But this has been a real pleasure speaking with all of you from the band Railcard. And thank you, Ian, for staying in touch and making this connection here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. It's been brilliant.
So you're coming to the States, Ian, yeah?
Yes, with Heavenly. We've got 2 trips coming up, one in April and one in June. So that's Heavenly and Swansea Sound playing together.
Well, I saw you in San Francisco, which is
so. I think we're back.
Amazing.
I think we're back there.
Yeah, that was great. So welcome back when we see you again.
Thank you,
Rachel. Do you want to plug anything?
Well, 2 solo albums are coming out in April on Slumberland.
Okay.
So yeah,
on Slumberland.
Keep You in Mind and
Wonderful.
Lyra.
Railcard, thank you so much. Everyone, go check out their music. Head on over to Apple, Spotify, Bandcamp, and support these great musicians and what they do. And Slumberland Records and Skepwax, they all do great work. My name is W, host of this podcast feature known as Surprise Cast, and I would like everyone to remember this. Great music is all around us. All you have to do is keep your ears open.